Welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the internet's most passionate wine program. And today we have a wonderful guest, a very interesting email I got. I was excited about it. I decided to do it. Joe, thank you for being here, my man.
Gary, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man. We got to meet in the elevator. I actually just got in. I went up, I saw pizza. I'm like, I know who this is.
Yeah.
I also am being very kind to you. I'm allowing a spit bucket that is not a Jets bucket. I'm impressed with your skills. Now let's talk about why. I think it needs to be prefaced why I am allowing this. One, I am an Eric Mangini fan. Two,
would you like him back?
No.
Okay.
Two, no, let me rephrase that. Yes.
Okay.
I have this weird feeling that you're about to experience the reverse of Bill Belichick. Okay. That you're going to get the young coach that didn't have a good stay maybe in the last play. Anyway. Two, you've never won a Super Bowl, so I don't have any envy. You know, I've won one, or the Jets have won one. You guys haven't.
Before you were born.
Listen, I know you won all those championships. Mott, I don't need to see your three fingers. I know what you've won. I've seen them all. I haven't even seen my own. And you're probably getting Braylon Edwards, who he's going to get. What should he know about Braylon Edwards?
Did that happen today?
It's going to happen any minute.
Okay.
Stinks? Good? Inconsistent?
He's been inconsistent. Yeah. I haven't seen the deal. It depends on what they get for him.
They're going to get a first and a fifth.
First and a fifth?
I'll
take it.
I don't know. The Giants pretty chintzy giving up their number one.
Well, a little football talk to start the show. Now, listen, fun show. Joe, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you're about, how did this come about? I mean, this has been a long time in the making.
Yes.
For all the other pizza people that have been hitting me up. I just want to preface that for like, what the heck? I've been asking for a long time. Go ahead.
Okay, name is Joe Zaha, JZ Wine Company. I basically started...
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yes.
I mean, that's a really ballsy play when one of the biggest personal brands on earth is Jay-Z, Hova. I mean, that's an interesting play by you. Did you give that some thought?
Absolutely. Well, my last name is Zaha, Z-A-U-C-H-A, so I was not about to slap that on.
Oh, I know
on
the
Vaynerchuk
problem.
So let's make it easy. Jay-Z, I believe I'm older than him, so maybe I should sue him.
I see,
but,
I see.
Anyway.
And it's a J and a Z. You didn't go J-A, you know
right,
why.
Exactly.
Okay, so anyway, go ahead.
So I started my own company a little more than about 5 years ago now, and was brokering a few brands, but I wanted to have one of my own, and so I was keeping a...
What kind of brands were you brokering?
Candoni, one that you see downstairs. Baywood Cellars, which is important because they ended up being the winery that makes the Pizza Vino for me. And a couple others that have fallen by the wayside. But I knew that I didn't have enough...
now, this was all happening in Ohio?
This was happening in Ohio, yeah. It was just south of Cleveland.
Okay. Are you an Indians fan?
Absolutely.
Do you love LeBron?
I love LeBron. He went to actually my rival high school. I hated him all through high school. I mean, I was long gone since then.
Well,
but
you look pretty good, man.
But you know, as soon as he became a Cav, I jumped on the bandwagon for sure. So, but as far as Pizza Vino, I just was thinking of different brands, and I had, you mentioned like Happy Tree. I mean, I had a whole list full of things, and they all sucked until the one day I was reading. I think it was a Food and Beverage Journal, and they're talking about pizza consumption, and I said, "No, that I ought to tap into." And then it went from A to B in 1 second. As I need to put a pizza on the label.
This is pretty interesting packaging.
The first thing I did, I went and did a search for pizza pictures. I saw that. I mean, it was the easiest part of the whole thing. And I found that picture, fell in love with it, walked around for one weekend showing everybody, hey, what do you think of this? And 100% of the people said, oh, you've got to do that. So
have some people thought it's cheesy? Because it's an interesting little play. I mean, I'm sure some people, you know... Some people think, you know...
Well, a lot of people said, you know, you're excluding a lot of people by that. And I said, well, I think I'm including a lot of people by doing that. I'm the first person to ever put a food object on a label. Now, let's see who's imitating me. Layer Cake, okay, which is a major brand. Cupcake, though, they don't actually have the food on it, is being sued by Layer Cake. So I think imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I'm flattered by these people that thought that that was a clever idea.
So that's your brand. And it's been out for how long now?
A little more than it's been 4 years since I thought of it. I came out in December of '05. So
okay.
At one point it was available in as many as 12 states, but some of my distributor choices were not great. So I'm kind of repitching it right as we speak to a lot
Good
of
time
places.
to come on the show.
Yes, absolutely.
We've been nice to him, Mott. Well, let's see. I mean, one thing, you know, I think is important for everybody to understand is that it's kind of awkward play. It's like, you know, it's his personal brand. We've had some winemakers on, but in a higher price point, this is everyday consumption stuff. You know, tough seat here for me. You know I'm going to be real. It's what I do, and we spent a good 2 or 3 minute conversation about me making, you know, people, you know, we've had 1 or 2 people kind of run off set. I mean, I you know, so we'll see what happens. I'm excited about having you here. Okay. And the wines right now at this point are not super available because of that, because you're refocusing.
Right. The Riesling...
First wine is Once Bitten Riesling. You're hot on the food play. This comes from the Moselle, so it's a German Riesling, right? 07, good vintage. What kind of suggested retail is this wine?
$9.99.
Okay. And it's available where? Ohio,
Mississippi, North Carolina.
Of course.
And actually New Jersey. The smallest of small distributors allegedly has it, though I think I've drank more of it than they've sold.
So. And who has in Jersey?
Siemens Imports.
Siemens?
Yes.
Got it. Like the furniture or like the other crazy stuff?
Like the furniture.
Getting it. All right. So let's give it a sniffy sniff. 10 bones. What made you make this product? What was the thought behind Once Bitten?
Well, Rieslings were getting super hot, and actually I wanted to do a Washington State Riesling. So I called every winery that sold off juice, and they all said, no, you may not have any of our Washington State Riesling. By then I was pretty far along with the label. I liked the apple, and had the photograph, had the art, and
you were ready to go.
I was ready to roll, and I bumped into a guy that imports some German wines, and I told him what I was looking to do, and he was, hop on my containers, man. So
got it. So, you know, good fruit on the nose. Pretty happy with the, you know, the fresh apple play on the nose. Kind of crisp and clean. Little bit tight aromatically. I mean, you normally expect a little bit more on the nose from a Riesling. This is kind of, you know, maybe it's young 07, but it's kind of one-dimensional with just like kind of an apple juice play, you know? And that isn't innuendo, I think, from the label. It's
Absolutely.
Clearly apple.
The label, people that could not pull a fruit out of a wine to save their lives come up with apple on this one, and they don't know that it's. I've already put it in their mind, but that was actually kind of a residual.
Yeah, you got lucky because it sounds like the wine didn't exist yet.
Exactly, I did get lucky on that.
Let's give it a whirl.
Now, in picking this one, I had some options. I had Mosel. I had a higher price Mosel, a Na, and the other thing I could do is dial in the sugar level. Now, I did a little research on the brands that were selling, you know, the Relax Riesling, the Schmidt-Sonas, etc., and they were all hunting in the 4% residual sugar range. I didn't want to go that high. That's a 3. For my personal preference, I'd have gone lower, but I'm here to make money, and not necessarily make.
This is mad money. Now we're here to make money. So for me on the palate, this wine is not super appealing because of its lack of acid. Like that to me is the telltale reason I drink Riesling.
Sure.
You know, I like the juiciness of it, and it's an easy drink. And suggested $9.99 means, you know, a store like this would probably sell for $7.99 eventually once it starts getting distribution. So it doesn't scare me that it's not, you know, from a price point, like, you know, like my dad said on that episode ago, what do you expect for $5.49?
Right.
For $8 to $10, it's adequate, but it does lack really any kind of acid on the back end, which is kind of the reason I get involved with Riesling. What is your kind of play on that?
Well, again, I'm going after more of the popular brand set. The wine geeks, not calling you a geek, but the wine, you know, the people that really need the ratings.
You think so, though? You think that, you know, my whole thing is that that's its defining moment, right? For Riesling, that acid in the back end.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, and I think you're right. Probably like that early drinker, give them something easy, not too much to think about.
Yeah.
And I guess you're saying with this kind of packaging, I'm not going to get Mr. Chris Mott connoisseur.
Right.
You know,
this is to cut into Twisted River, Relax Riesling, those kind of things. And I think it's a more sophisticated wine than those.
To that, you know, this feels like a very much, and this very much stings a lot of my own DNA, more of an entrepreneurial play. I mean, for me, it seems like you're definitely into wine.
Yes.
Right? Clearly, you wouldn't do it. But, you know, it's not as much about, for you, this project's not strictly about your palate. It's about finding the palate of the consumer that sells.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story about when I kind of switched over from being wine nerd to entrepreneur. I worked for a company that I can see pretty well represented downstairs at AV Imports.
Okay.
And you know, they had a high-end portfolio as well. And I remember being in a store and taking 10, 15 minutes to sell Salice Salentino and
Love it.
Primitivo di Madeira, and after 10 or 15 minutes, the guy says, yeah, give me 3 bottles of that, 3 of that, and 2 of that. And he goes, oh, and by the way, give me 5 cases of Luna di Luna Blue and 5 cases of Luna di Luna Red. Now, the better wines with the better story, with the better pedigree, I got a 9-bottle order and I got a 10-case order of Luna. And I said, you know what, I'm banging my head against the wall trying to teach the world about Salice Salentino. I want to sell pallets of wine. So you know,
that's kind of what
it is. But that being said, there's not a single wine that I have my Jay-Z on the back of that I wouldn't drink that I don't say, yeah, you know, I do have a place for that. Warm, this is tough. This is the first time I've ever had this warm.
You know, warm exposes.
Well, a little bit.
I mean, it does. You know, and this is not a high alcohol wine. Where warm hurts white wines is in the alcohol. You're going to feel it. We don't feel that. It's just at some level. And again, you know, I got to, you know, I like you, but I love them. All of those people in there. You know, it's an acid thing for me. I mean, this has none of it, and then kind of gets like, oh crap, like what is almost the point of drinking Riesling without that play in the back end? I do like the freshness of the apple play. I really do, but it's a one-dimensional play. It's a simplistic wine. To me, this kind of rolls in like an 80, 81 point wine. I probably would not even be that enthusiastic to tell you to buy it for 8 bones. It's just not for me. I feel like if you're going to continue with this brand, I would be curious if you would go. Don't you feel like you need some acid?
Well, you know, this is the end of the 07 run.
Okay.
Really, when these come out fresh, they are really good.
Yeah.
And I'll have some 08 in about July.
And you feel like they'll have a little more of a play?
It definitely did. I haven't had this
in
in a while.
All right. Let's move on to the Pinot from Pizza Vina. I think it's a very interesting packaging. I think it's clever, and it'll be interesting for me to see how you evolve with this brand. I think it's a cool play. I mean, I like niche marketing and those kind of things, so I think it'll be interesting to see. I can see a lot of bistros and Italian restaurant, casual Italian restaurants, you know, playing around with this. What is the suggested price point of?
We're going from we're in the $7.99 to $9.99 range.
Good, and again, this distribution is in Ohio, Mississippi,
Michigan, Wisconsin. I forgot Wisconsin.
Oh, Wisconsin. Okay.
Minnesota. And actually, it was launched for just a minute in New York City, or in upstate New York.
In the Buffalo area?
Yeah, it's a distributor that got bought by Southern, who discontinued it right away.
That sucked.
That sucked bad. That was not a happy day in my life.
California fruit, I see appellation.
Yes.
So again, when you see this, guys, let's do a little education action. This means it can come from anywhere in California, anywhere. You know, where's the fruit source of this?
The winery's in Lodi.
Okay.
The family, John Cotta Jr. is a winemaker. His family owns vineyards in Lodi, Monterey, which is a
lot of Pinot comes from.
A lot of Pinot, and then also Paso Robles. But the Pinot in the very first bottling, the first vintage was 2004.
Okay.
It could have been Monterey then. I went with the generic California appellation.
You want to keep that going?
Yeah, I want to keep it going.
You didn't want the 04 to do well as Monterey, and then you came back with 05 California.
Exactly.
People are like, oh, you downgraded it?
Exactly.
I understand.
And so I leave it California, and you know, a lot of the people that are buying in this range are not necessarily looking appellation. They just want good. So you know, I'd rather find good and leave myself open to.
And you're trying to compete with wines like Bogle and, you know, what other kind
Rex
of brands?
Goliath, Smoking Loon, Pepper
Cartlidge and Brown, those kind of brands.
Brown, yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. Let's give it a sniffy sniff. Again, I would say the one thing I'm not super duper pumped about off the bat is the aromatics. You know, it's tight, huh?
Yeah, this one's tight.
Real tight. You know, I mean, you know, again, it hasn't been open super long, so let's give you that massive benefit of doubt. But this is a very tight wine. I'm getting very little in terms of aromatics, which is a major bummer, especially with Pinot where you expect it.
Yeah.
You know, I assume after an hour we'd probably see a lot more going on here.
I usually get more bright red raspberry in this, but you know,
it's tight.
It's tight.
It's tight. Let's give it a whirl. No wristband very much. There, leak. This is doing a little bit better. I mean,
Yeah,
it's tasting better than
it smells.
It smells for sure. The fruit is pretty upfront. I like the cola play.
Yeah.
That this wine brings to the forefront. I do get like a raspberry cola. Like if Coke came out with a new flavor, new Coke, raspberry. That's what this would taste like a little bit. And that like those aftertastes from a cola play. It's thin. It's not a big.
No, it's not big
at all. Kind of Pinot, which is fine. I mean, you're supposed to see your fingers through it. Pinot's supposed to be kind of a lighter play. This is even more light than that. But again, let's really do understand this before everybody's like, "Oh, Gary, this is a bloodbath. Why are you being mean?" If you're competing against, Pepperwood Grove, Rex Goliath, the other $7 to $10 Pinots, it's in the conversation.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like it's like this wine would be like misrepresented. I think the fear in that is you start climbing to 12 to 15 and you get so much more.
Oh, yeah.
You can get some Bourgogne Rouge and there's other brands out there, some Argentinian, Chilean plays that kind of get me more excited. So if this is $9.99, I'm kind of like, eh. If this is $6 or $7.99, I'm kind of like very easy Wednesday night kind of with pizza kind of play.
Yes.
What do you have to add?
$7.99 is where it's at right now in Ohio.
Which is not a heavily price aggressive market. Which kind of makes me innuendo like, in New Jersey, is this a $6.99 brand? Is this a $5.99 brand? Though I know you don't want it to see at $5.99. And that's what kind of like critiquing it becomes very important because it becomes a quality price ratio. I mean, it's a totally different conversation at $5.99 than $9.99 or $6.99 and $9.99.
Usually, before I launch a brand, I buy the whole competitive set and taste them blind.
Sure.
Taste friends and family on them, and this always does very, very well in that. This actually is my most awarded wine. The restaurant Hospitality Magazine gave it top 10 red wines in the world for under $10, 89 points. So, though it's not showing 89 today, but I think it's showing close to its top of its game, except for aromatically.
Yeah, aromatically it's tight, but you know what? I agree. I mean, it's a little sugar-fied for me. Like for my palate, it's a little sweet. For yours too, a little bit. Just like for your own personal palate.
Yes.
Like because again, I mean, I think it's very commendable and transparent that you're trying to make these wines for a set.
Sure.
And compete against a certain thing. For your palate, does it go a little sugar?
That's where the pizza play comes in a little bit. To me, okay, good
segue.
The first wine that I picked was actually the Cabernet.
Okay.
And this is, at this point, I only had the concept of a pizza wine. Now, I wanted to deliver what I was saying I was going to do. I tasted a lot of different wines, and what I learned was the things that I thought I liked with pizza, which were Italian wines, didn't. I liked the riper wines.
The acidity in the red wines didn't go well with you.
No, to me, the acid bangs heads with the acid in the pizza, and I wanted a marriage. The fruit to me, even though these are kind of you might say one-dimensional, they're blank canvas wines. They're fruity, they're nice, they taste good, and with pizza, they kind of bond together real nice and becomes like that. So that on its own, I'm not going to have Pinot Noir and Duck with Pizza Vino Pinot. I'm going to have but it is a very good. People said Pinot Noir. How are you going to match that with pizza? So you just try that one.
Got it from the sugar.
From the sugar, the sugar on these is right at what they say the point of perceivable sweetness is somewhere in the range of 0.3% residual.
So this
sugar.
becomes kind of the conversation of why Yellowtail and Kendall Jackson Santa Margarita have done well. You look at the brands that have done well traditionally; they've always kind of pushed a little higher to the sugar side.
I don't think I'm Yellowtail sweet. I think those are 0.5. I'm going to say these are 0.3-ish.
Got it. To me, again, listen. I think this is the best guy going. I mean, but at the end of the day, I got to do my job, and this is okay. I mean, $6.99, $7.99. Is it worth the fun of it? Absolutely, to me. I mean, it's a little sweet. It's a little hollow in the mid palate. It's just, it's difficult for me to say, oh man, to me, it's ultimately would I buy this. And this one also, maybe more so than the Riesling, but to me, it's an 81, 82 point wine tops. That being said, the fact that you say aromatically it's not doing its normal thing does make excitement, and we did pop, and we didn't have a lot of time for breathing, so I do feel pretty good about that. Okay. I'd like to see where it goes, and I think, you made this for a reason.
Yes.
So I think it is definitely worth people's effort to see how that pairs.
Sure.
I think you win on a lot of fun play, too. I mean, from a business standpoint, the fun aspect of this brand, people are just picking this up at the register all day long kind of thing, right?
The places, when it's out, the places that have it, it pulls very, very well.
Yeah.
It was actually, it's still in Ohio is a Nielsen, top 25 scanner.
Is it?
And I'm only in half of the state of Ohio.
Is that right?
Yeah. And the really exciting thing for me, I trademarked the pizza on the label thing. So
nobody can put pizza on.
Nobody can put pizza on the label.
Is that a rinse for you? No worries. I'm just checking.
But
let's talk about the Browns for a second.
Okay.
How long have you been a Browns fan?
Since I can remember.
Pizza Vino 04 Cabernet. Good. I like the 04s in general. And again, is this Monterey, or do you think this is more Paso fruit? Because Paso.
That's more Lodi.
Oh, Lodi. Okay.
Lodi with some Paso blender.
Have you thought about doing Zin? I mean, Lodi has good Zins for value. Has that been in your mind?
It definitely has been in my mind. I have a Pinot Grigio as well. That was the first line extension. Everybody said.
Oh, show the 3 wines that you brought that we didn't end up doing.
Well, okay. That one's not out yet. Let's do
Teacher's Pet Hilarity.
That's actually an interesting Twitter story.
Is that right? This has a little Twitter play?
It does. I was...
Buckeye. I wonder where you got that name from.
I don't want to go there.
Are you not a Buckeye fan?
Oh, I am a Buckeye fan.
But that gets really emotional in your parts, huh?
Not so much emotional. It's the university's not exactly happy about these wines. So
is that right?
That is correct.
But they don't have any. They can't say anything about it.
They can make my life miserable. So
will they?
And they may or may not.
Yeah.
They did a little bit last year,
but ultimately it's still around. So you didn't. Your
it's
life
still around.
Completely.
But I've been running under the radar a little bit.
God, well, this is not going to do that for you.
Oh well. Well, the Teacher's Pet. Okay, so I think of this idea. I think of my concepts first, and then I say, "Oh, I got to go find some good wine for this." But so I wanted to market towards different
demos.
Demos, yeah. So Teacher is a great one. I'm going to also do Nurse's Aid, a little play on word. So I've got this idea for a teacher's label, and I got a real generic label that I've thrown together. But I wanted to do more of an illustration than a straightforward label. So I get on with my sole purpose to find an illustrator, and lo and behold, this guy named Steve Ouch.
Ouch?
Steve Ouch.
That's an awesome name.
Follows me on Twitter, and I go to his website. He has a steampotville.com. So he does kids books, and he does this crazy
character.
Yeah, he does this photo
awesome.
Manipulation.
It's
stuff.
Wild.
And I said, "Hey, would you like to
zoom in on this? This is really cool.
Would you like to do a label for me?" And he said, "Sure." So now here's a guy I never met. Talked to him on the phone. I sent him a check, blind faith. Said, "Okay, I think I like this guy. I'm going to send him some money," and I couldn't be more happy with that label.
Good for you. What's really, really quite cool. What would you say that I know a lot of people are thinking right now about the fact that, this is, wine should be about soul and the terroir and the earth and the realness, and this, you're coming from such a different angle. Such an entrepreneurial business angle. Sure. I'm sure that some people are like, wow, the wine to this guy's an afterthought. How do you combat that kind of argument?
Well, first of all, it's not the wine is not an afterthought. There's a lot of good juice out there. Now, it may not have my heart and soul and my hands in the dirt kind of thing, but I'd say most people are buying those wines anyway. They don't know. I'm admitting I'm a negociant. Most brands are negociant brands. They're buying them. They're pretending to be wineries. I actually had a guy.
That's a very, very, very valid point.
Told me that he visited a winery, and I said, that winery does not exist. My wine comes from the same place. You never visited blank winery. And I said, well, let's go there right now. You show me this place. I saw their wine coming off the same bottling line as mine. Now, it may have been different wines, but the illusion that people are running out back with baskets and picking grapes and stomping them just for you.
Yep.
When you look at the top,
do you feel like you're being the person that rolls up to a 3-year-old and says Santa Claus doesn't exist?
No, I don't think. I don't.
You don't like that picture.
Well, I don't know that you need. I don't need that illusion.
Yeah.
I just want good wine.
You look at things like Two Buck Chuck's phenomenon, and you're right. So many brands that these consumers out there, we buy our supermarket brands, especially our co-ops. They're big factories.
Sure, absolutely. I look at them as my competition.
Sure.
How do I compete against Groth, or Schaefer, or somebody, something like that.
You're competing against the
the other brands we name. Now, Don and Sons, that does Pepperwood Grove Smoking Loom, they proudly say we are a negociant.
Yep. They've done a good job.
So I'm kind of on the page with them.
All right, let's try the 04 Cab. See what's going on. Sniffy sniff time.
Oh yeah.
This to me is like the most easily pegged scent in blind wine tasting. Like Cabernet California under $10. It's like they all have that black cherry kind of like thing going on. You know, you can just smell it. Little cedar. You know, classic kind of, pretty good nose. This one's definitely aromatically the most interesting of the bunch. I'm also going to deduct 1 point from the Riesling, if you don't mind. Don't get upset with me.
Okay. As long as they have an 8 to begin with.
This one had an 8 and a 0. Now it's going to be a 7 and 9. Is that okay?
Ooh, well, okay. Well, can we add one to something later?
Yes. I owe you one. All right. Let's give this a whirl. That was good.
I remember first time I tasted that wine, I had decided I was going to do a Cabernet, and I really wanted Baywood Cellars to do it because I had the Baywood Cellars Cab. I liked the Baywood Cellars Cab. It was the one that when I was pairing with pizza, it was the one that stood out as the best pairing. But I wanted to be a little bit lower price point than he was. So I said, give me the best you can for X amount of dollars a case.
5 cents a case.
But so he sent me a few different samples, and I wasn't happy with the first couple samples he sent me. I said, come on, we got to do better than this. After the third one was
the bottled water case didn't work?
Yeah, it was actually the first one was bad Monterey fruit, real super green. So I get to the third one, I said, God, this is borderline. I was tasting it against things, and it's kind of coming out in the middle of the pack. And I said, don't you have anything better? He goes, I got one more for you. And he sends it to me, and FedEx guy comes, and the phone rings at the same time as the winery. He said, you get the sample? I said, yeah. He goes, just taste it? And I said, give me a second here. Pull out my corkscrew and taste it while he was on the phone. I said, buy it all. This is the winner.
This is it.
Go with it. And it still tastes,
you know, this definitely has solid weight for the price point. I like the black cherry fruit. It's a little hot on the back end, you know, which surprised me when I see 13%. Either means the fruit is a little thinner than is perceived on the front, or that it's a little hotter than 13, and with that wiggle room, you're allowed to kind of, you know.
I've had one back label, and I've had 4 different blends of this. So
understood. So yeah, I'm picking up the heat on the back. Are you picking that up a little bit on this one?
Definitely.
So that would be the only critique I think that gets very hidden with food in a lot of ways. This is the most interesting of the bunch to me. You know, an 83, 84 point wine. I like the fruit. It's very serviceable. This would be definitely something that we would, you know, if this was Wine Library and I was doing buying, if we could promote that wine at $6.99, it would be in the store. I think that it could compete and go against everything we're carrying at that price point for that kind of wine. I like the black cherry fruit, like I said. This is definitely, to me, the one that kind of shows the most oomph.
Okay, I'll use my point then.
Oh, you want an 85?
Yeah.
That's very smart.
Okay.
Come on, this guy's thinking over here. I like the negotiation skills. I see how you got this stuff down to 5 cents a case. Brilliant. Joe, what else is it, you know, so I think people got to look into your entrepreneurial spirit. When it was more about the wine, Salice Salentino, what was really rocking your boat? What is rocking your boat when you're drinking outside of your stuff?
Côte du Rhône. Sancerre still. Lately, been on a Agave Arnais kick. And, you know, and then I slip back into some Australian every once in a while.
Yeah,
so,
little fruit
bomby action. Yeah, every once in a while. There's no segment that I can say I don't like. There are different times.
And how long had you been in the wine business?
Actually, a similar story kind of to you. I worked at a wine store when I was 19, bagging ice, you know, so I picked it up pretty early and then got away from it and then came back. I've been doing wine professional for 13 years now, so.
It's very good, man. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you. It was a blast.
I had a real good time. Why don't you fire away and ask the question of the day?
Question of the day. I was going to go with something pizza, but since we didn't get into it, I'm going to go back to given the choice between a estate-grown, estate-bottled wine that was pretty good, and a negotiant wine that's good, does the fact that it's not hand-picked and handmade, does that bother you so much that you would take the value out of it?
That's a very good question, and I will say this, when I look at the answers, I guarantee some people are going to go for the romance of it has to be estate and what have you, and then some of their favorite wines of all time, they have no idea, aren't there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll now call them out too.
Will you? Get in there. You need to get into the trenches. You, with a little bit of me, we're changing the wine world.